I'm Tony, and today we're going to make scrunchies. Scrunchies are something from when I was young. We used to wear them all the time, and I love them. They're back in style again. Good news, if you can sew a straightish line, you can make your own scrunchies out of any fabric that you like. And bonus, Rhinestone Genie just made some templates that you can use to bling up your scrunchies as well. So today I'm going to teach you not only how to make a scrunchie step by step, but also how to use those bling templates to add a little bit of shine to your life. The materials are pretty simple for this project. First, you need a 3" by 22" strip of your preferred fabric. Any fabric is fine. It doesn't make a difference if it's satin, silk, cotton, fleece, whatever you want to make your scrunchie out of, as long as it's 3" by 22". I'm using quilting cotton, and the nice thing about quilting cotton is that it is normally about 44 inches. So as you see, I have a 3" strip of quilting cotton. So I'm going to just take this, make sure you cut off the selvage, and cut it into two 22" pieces. So I will make one regular scrunchie and one that's blinged out. So you can see the difference between bling and no bling, so you can make your decision of what you want. In addition to fabric, you also need a matching thread. Notice how my thread is white. Normally you would do black thread with this, but I want to make sure you can see all of my stitches and all of my seams and everything that I'm doing. So mine is the opposite. Yours should be the same color as your fabric. You need some straight pins. You need elastic. Remember, I'm doing 2 scrunchies. So I have 2 pieces of elastic. The elastic should be a 1/4 inch wide by 8 inches long. Now, all of these numbers are down below in all of the extra things that come with the video. You also need your preferred tube turning method. This is mine. It's the Easy Point and Turner. This thing is great, and I absolutely love it. I got mine from Famore, and the link is down below if you're interested in it, and I'll show how to use this later on whenever we're turning our scrunchie. Now, the optional is bling. So, this is the new bling template that Rhinestone Genie just came out with. It's pretty cool. And I'm going to be using AB crystals from Rhinestone Genie for my bling. They are iron-on, and they're pretty cool. So I think, let's see, I haven't used the templates yet. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let me do this one. I think let's do a full bling just to make sure that this whole thing comes out. So I'm going to remove this from the other 2 templates in order to lay it out on my sheet. So step number 1, let's prepare our fabric and get it blinged. If you're doing the blinging part, what you want to do first is iron your fabric in half. So you notice how I have that fold right here? This is important because your bling template only goes half of it. So you see how it cuts off right here? You line this up right here with the very edge of your fold, and that's because this area right here is going to be attached to the other area. So let's go ahead and do this first. So we've ironed this in half. Let's bring out our baking sheet, and we're going to lay down our template. Now, this is for both sides. Remember, a scrunchie is folded over. All right, so let's take our bling out. I'm going to put as much bling as I possibly can on here. Now, you can use either the brush or the sweeping pad. Either will get your bling in there. And let's bling everything out. Ooh, I'm doing really good. Oops, there's one flip there. There we go. So far, so good. Now, when it's the friction of the bling that gets it to turn over the correct way. If you have any that are flipped, just keep on sweeping, keep on turning. There we go. And if you're having problems with just a few getting flipped over the wrong way, or a few that just don't want to seem to go in, so for example, this little guy here, You can use bling tweezers, which I absolutely love. They are pointed. They're super pointed. There we are. Let's clear all of our bling away just to inspect everything. So every bling completely cleared away from everything. Whoops. And it looks like I need a guy right here. Oh, this guy's flipped. So let's grab another one to put it in there. Now, you may have, yeah, again, it takes practice. It takes time to get all the bling in there. But even on with this learning curve, it is still a lot easier than if you were to place each of these rhinestones one at a time. And that fast, I have bling. Now let's add our bling. So we have our transfer tape that's peeled away off of the paper. Now I'm going to start on one end, and then I'm going to just take my tape and move it all the way down until I hit all of those bling. Let's make sure that I pick every single one up. Now, you notice how I keep my finger underneath of here while I do this. We don't want the transfer tape to stick too much to the tray, or else you may not be able to get up again, because it is some great tape. Now, we're going to take this and pull this away. Let's make sure, I'm looking to make sure all of the bling is on the tape nicely as I pull it away, because every now and then I miss one. Oh, that's perfect. There it is. All right, so let's move this aside, and let's bring our folded fabric back again. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to lay the bling all the way on the end. Now, it's important that you get this centered, because we have to make sure that we avoid where we're going to be sewing. So let's do this. Perfect. So I'm taking this all the way to the end and all the way out, just like that, onto my fabric. Now, underneath of my fabric, I'm going to be putting a Teflon ironing sheet. So this is an ironing pad under here. And then I'm going to be laying my bling on top. I'm just making sure that this is lined up exactly how I want it. It is great. And then I'm going to take my Teflon sheet and put it on top. And then we're going to iron. Now, when you're ironing, make sure that you don't move your iron back and forth. The tape is holding it in place, but you want to make sure that you don't accidentally move one of the rhinestones before it's set. So don't do an ironing back and forth motion. Just pick your iron up and put it down. I make the joke, pick it up and put it down. Pick it up and put it down. Just like the old Saturday Night Live sketches. Because that's exactly what you want to do. So to remember not to iron it back and forth, make sure that you pick it up and you put it down. Now we're going to iron this for a few minutes just to make sure that these rhinestones are in place. And then I'm going to wait until my transfer tape is cool to the touch. And then we will pull it away and see how it looks and see if this has transferred properly. Okay, let's see how it turns out. So remember, cool to the touch. This is cool to the touch, so I can pull this away. And let's hold the fabric down. And there is my scrunchie. So at this point now, I'm going to flip it to the other side and do the same thing. So we've got this side finished. So now I'm going to turn this part over. I'm going to do the same thing on this side and then come back and show you. Okay, let's take a look at it. Now remember, it is, if you want to add bling to your scrunchies, please, please, please do this step first. You have to bling it before you sew it. Okay, or else the bling is not going to lay properly. So let's remove our sheet. Let's see our transfer tape. We're going to put the backing back on so I can reuse this again in the future. All right, so let's move away all of those little threads. There we are, and let's open this up. and the glue went through. So if you want to avoid, you notice how the glue is sticking it together? If you want to avoid the glue sticking it on both sides, take your Teflon coating sheet and put it in the middle as you're doing that, and that'll protect it even more. But honestly, depending upon your fabric, it doesn't make a difference. But if you're using satin or silk, yes, definitely you want to prepare and take care of that. All right, so if you take a look, you see how I've got the entire thing blinged out. I didn't quite line it up right here. You see I was a little bit off with the two sides, but that's okay because you're not going to notice that in the finished scrunchie. Okay, so now the next step what we want to do is we want to take our ends on both sides, fold them in, iron it, and then sew it in place. So we're going to iron. So what we're doing is we're preventing a seam from sticking out. So we're preventing a raw edge on the end right there. So after you've ironed both sides, go ahead and sew it straight right there, and then right there on the other side, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like. All right, as you can see, I just did a small line across right there, just to make sure that I hold this in place. We don't want this to come loose in the wash, because yes, even with bling on there, you can wash this. So you want to make sure that you sew right along there. All right, now the next step is adding in the elastic. So what we want to do is take your strip of fabric, fold it in half, and iron just this one side. Because we want to see where exactly the center is going to fall. Because we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam on down here. So we want to make sure that this here is we can figure out where this is here. Now you notice how the placement of the bling is not near the actual fold. This is done on purpose. So that way, right along those edges, don't snag in your hair as much. All right, so we've got these folded over. So of course I've got to open that back up again because it activated the glue and I tried to close it. And we're going to put it face down, and we're putting our bling. In fact, let me move my ironing board now that I finished ironing. There we are. Okay, so let's put that face down. Let's move that out of the way. Great, there we go. All right, so you see here is my crease. What I want to do is I want to take my elastic and I want to sew it about a 1/4 down away from the center. So, or maybe a 1/3, about a 1/3 of the way. So because if I do half, remember we're taking away a 1/4 inch seam here. So now it's really close to the edge. So we want to put it about a 1/3 of the way down from that center line. It doesn't make a difference on which side you do it, as long as it's about a 1/3 of the way down. Okay, and let's do it also now on the blinged out one. So same exact thing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do it a 1/3 of the way down. There we go. And now I'm going to take this back to my sewing machine and I'm going to start in the center. I'm going to go across to here and I'm going to go back and forth in order to make sure that this elastic is really on here and it's not going anywhere. And then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, the elastic is sewn on. You can do a test. If you can grab the fabric and pull on the elastic, if the elastic doesn't shift at all, then it's fine and it's sewed onto there. So let's do another test onto this one. Yep, nope, that's sewn on there. Now, it does not make a difference with the elastic if you go a little bit past or if you're a little bit under. As long as it's sewn on there securely and you have no issues, that is what you're going for and that's what you want. So now the next step is let's do the sewing of the actual scrunchie. So we're going to fold this right side to right side. I'm just going to take a clip or a pin and put that right in there so I know It's going to get started correctly, and you don't need pins. All you need to do is put this in your machine, just like if you're strip piecing. And I do have a video all on strip piecing. It's actually down below. So all you want to do is just sew right down here, 1/4 inch. Now you can feel the rhinestones in here. The rhinestones should be a little more than 1/4 inch in. In fact, I'm going to put that on the half. Nope, they should be a 1/2 inch in. Oh, let me move that up here so you can see what I'm doing. So they should be a 1/2 inch in. So right here is my first rhinestone. So then that way, as you're sewing a 1/4 inch seam, you're not going to hit these rhinestones. Now, of course, if you don't have any rhinestones in your scrunchie, then you don't have a problem at all. All you have to do is fold that over and then put a pin in. Now, do not sew this closed. This is perfectly fine. All you have to do is just sew straight down the line. Again, this bears repeating. Do not sew these holes closed. Both ends of the hole should be open. All right? Even with the ones with the rhinestones. If you're doing rhinestones, make sure that that hole is open. All right? Do not sew these holes closed. That's why you sew the elastic on before you do this. All right? All right, so now let's do our easy point and turn. Let's do the easy one first, the one without the rhinestones. If you have a favorite method of tube turning, at this point, this is where you use it. I do have a video all about different ways of tube turning. And I found with the easy point and turn, the bigger the loop, the better. I love this for scrunchies. This is all I use to flip my scrunchies. It is amazing. If you want to see all the options for turning your tubes, take a look at that video. I've linked it down below. Okay, so the easiest way that I have found for scrunchies is hold the side that has the elastic. Keep that on the left. And then what you want to do is take the easy point and turn and feed the side without the elastic onto the right. So we're going to feed this all the way in, and then we're going to lift this up just a little bit. I'm going to pull this over. I'm going to close it. You see how it's gripped onto that, just like that. And then I'm going to turn my tube. So once you get it started, it's easy to just flip. Now, you don't have to worry about this elastic because it's not going to go anywhere. As you're flipping this, you just turn the whole thing. Now, once you see the other side, you can open this up and pull this out. Now, here's the trick, and this is the tricky part. First thing that I want to do is I want to pull this out so that this is nice and flat, and my elastic is not going anywhere, okay? So let's pull that out. I take a pin or a clip and I put it in just like that. And you'll see why in a second, okay? This is important to hold that. Now I'm going to hold my elastic with one hand and then feed the tube through the other hand. Okay, so I'm feeding the tube through as I'm holding my elastic. We don't want to lose our elastic. All right, so we have our elastic right there. Now, you notice how this hasn't gone anywhere. It's still nice and flat. That's why we did that. So we want to take our pin out. Let's put our elastic into here. So we want to take my elastic and I'm going to put it inside this tube. So the tube where the elastic is already sewn, we are taking our other side of the elastic and we're putting it in, and then I'm going to use a clip or a pin to hold that in place. And then I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew right here to hold this elastic into here. All right, let's see that one more time. Now let's do it with the bling on there. So elastic on the left-hand side, opening up the tube, putting the tube into here. Now, you do not need to worry about your bling coming off. Once you've ironed it on there, it's strong. You can try to pull at it. It's not coming off. You can also wash it. It's not going to come off. So you can be a little rough as you're turning this tube. Now it's going to be a little bit harder because it's not just the fabric that you're turning. You also have all that bling in there that you can feel as you're trying to turn it. Now, as you see, I am not being the gentlest. I'm being rough with that. So you can see I'm trying to pull it off. That bling's not coming off. Right? So now we can open this up, pull this out. The first thing I want to do is let's pull out our end. Now, if you don't have nails like I do in order to do this, feel free to use your tweezers, especially if you got some of those great bling tweezers from Famore. And use your tweezers to make sure that this gets pulled out. Okay, so we're putting our pin in there, holding our elastic, and pulling. And pulling. And then we still have our elastic. Now I want to make sure that I pop this all the way out. And then I'm going to take my elastic and do the same exact thing I did with the first one. Let's straighten this out. Take my pin out. Uh-oh. Oh no, I lost my elastic. Luckily it didn't go very far, so I can just take my bling tweezers. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to the elastic. There we are. And then I'm going to fold this over and take this and put that right in there. Now this is a little tricky sometimes. That first one seemed a little easy. This guy really wants to go in on itself. So you can straighten it out and pull it out in order to make it more flat. Oops. This guy really wants to go in there. Come on. There we go. So it is in there. Perfect. And then we're going to take our pin. We're going to hold that elastic in place. Whoops. Bent the pin. Let me grab another one. Now, make sure when you do this, you actually catch the elastic. You should be able to do this and not have the elastic come out. So make sure your pin or your clip, you're actually holding that elastic. All right, so let's go to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew along the line that I already have here in order to hold that elastic. Here it is. So as you can see, it is firmly sewn in there, and now this is sewn closed. All right, so now comes the tricky part, because we want to take this and we want to put it inside of this one, and we want to sew that closed without sewing over the bling. So a trick that I have if you're doing bling on it, take the bling and put it just under the threads right here. And then as I'm sewing it, I'm going to sew it just to the other side. Now remember, I said get thread that's matching that matches your fabric. So you're not going to see this thread at all right there. I only have it there so you can see exactly where I'm sewing. Now, you're not going to have that issue with this one. If you have no bling on it, it's easy. You just take the one side and you put it in the other side, and then sew it closed. And that is it. That is all you do. Take the one side, put it inside the other, and then sew that closed. Now, whenever you're sewing this, here's a trick. Make sure that when you hit this area, you go back and forth, and you go down here, and then you go back and forth. Lock these seams into place because they're not going to be exposed. Okay, so let's do that, and then I'll show you quickly what it looks like when it's finished. Ta-da! We have scrunchies. We have a blinged and a non-blinged, depending upon what you are. Now remember, you can see my seams here, only because I used white thread. Remember to match your thread to your fabric, and you won't have that problem. So this is the difference between the blinged and the not blinged. Now, there are two other designs depending upon what you want it to look like if you decide to go with the bling. Remember, this was the solid bling. There's also a single wavy line. So if you have super thick hair, if you're afraid of the bling catching on it, but you want some bling, I would go with this one. Or you can do some flower bursts. So there's a couple of different ways to bling out your scrunchies. Now, let's go ahead and put this together. You can't even see that seam. Oh, it's got a little peek of it right there. But this is what your bling looks like. Now we show you this one. There you go. Now, of course, I tuck that underneath just because, you know, that way you can't see it that much. But there it is. There are your scrunchies, the blinged and not blinged. And again, you're not going to see this. You'll match your thread. And that is how you make scrunchies. Hopefully you learned something today, how to make scrunchies. Don't forget to like this video, follow my YouTube, as well as Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, the Quite Nerdy Quilters Facebook group, and I think that's all of them. Oh, and don't forget about Twitch, where I sew live and you can interact and ask me questions.